Let's talk to Sam Ashworth-Hayes, who's Director of Studies at the Henry Jackson Society, who joins us now. Good morning to you, Sam.
Morning.
Thanks for joining us. Now, what people are on social media are attempting to link this horrible attack on this Wisconsin parade to is the Kyle Rittenhouse case, which saw a teenager acquitted of all charges on Friday after for murder of killing of two white men and the shooting of another white man, all at a Black Lives Matter protest. The reason people are linking is there has been the suspect who's arrested is a black man, and there's immediately question marks about, well, a white man can get acquitted for shooting people and a black man will not be given the same, as it's called, white privilege, and whether or not this was a question marks, but whether or not this was some sort of revenge attack. Let's go back to Friday, and indeed before then, to the Kyle Rittenhouse case. Can you explain just what that case is all about and why there has been such an outcry in some sections of America about his acquittal?
Yeah, I mean the very quick version is obviously events in Kenosha got quite quickly out of hand. The police proved overwhelmed and not able to cope with the policing of these protests, which turned sort of quite violent. Kyle Rittenhouse travelled to Kenosha from Antioch, so he travels. This has been, there's a lot been made of this crossing of state line business, but ultimately he's driving 20 minutes to town where his dad lives, where he used to work, where his sister's boyfriend lives, to basically, as I understand it, offer his help in cleaning up things. As night sort of falls and things start to get violent again, he goes out to take this car dealership, and then obviously, as we've seen, as in any situation where there are a lot of people, things getting violent, and things are not being
I'm
policed
so
properly.
sorry, Sam. I'm so sorry. I think the line keeps dipping in and out. Keeps going a bit quieter. But let me just, everyone missed that, because this was during one of the major Black Lives Matter protests. There was a lot of concern about damage to property. There was very violent protests. These ones that a lot of the mainstream media in America and the UK were talking about, largely peaceful. It certainly didn't look largely peaceful, but there was a whole argument that, well, he'd crossed state lines, as you say. It was a very short distance. He had close family and friends in the part of town that was basically on fire, dealing with these violent protests, and he crossed there. Now, he had an assault rifle with him. Now, most of us in Britain, where we do not routinely walk around armed, can be absolutely horrified that a 17-year-old can get access to an assault rifle, but he did have an assault rifle. Now, the allegations was that he basically went around originally it was claimed, he was a white supremacist who basically walked around shooting people. There's no evidence that he is a white supremacist, that he was just a sort of a teenager who kind of got a little bit, thought he'd go and be a hero and save his people, his family, his friends. But there's no doubt at all, there's been some real big concern about the fact that he was able to walk around and tell police that he'd killed people and not even taken into custody immediately.
Yeah, I mean, it really is just an indictment of the way the whole event was handled by the police in that state. They've completely lost control of the situation. There are things burning. There are crowds everywhere. There are gunshots going off. They don't know who's shooting. They don't know who's shooting at whom.
Yeah.
And he basically just gets missed in all the confusion. And it really does come down to this point that, as you say, he puts himself in a very bad situation, and things kind of unfurl from that. There's nothing criminal about that. You can question his judgment, but as the courts have found, he's not actually done anything legally wrong.
But there was a big outcry about this, that because he was white, he had the white privilege, having been cleared of killing two people. Although, interestingly, some of the reports here in the UK saying killing two black people, claiming that this was somehow racially motivated. But there's no evidence for that whatsoever. And we know, certainly in the case of one of the men who did not die, thankfully, but that he admitted this. He had held a gun. He was pointing a gun at Kyle Rittenhouse at the time that he shot him. Another man who he killed had smashed him in the head with a skateboard. It was incredibly violent, confused scenes. But a lot of the concern of the fact that this is a man who picked up a weapon, a very dangerous weapon, assault rifle, and walked into a dangerous situation. And as you say, he may have been acquitted, but many people questioning what on earth he was doing walking into that situation.
I mean, in terms of what he's doing walking into this situation, it again comes down to the fact that this shouldn't have been allowed to happen. It shouldn't be the case that the police back off and let people burn down car dealerships or sort of riot for days on end. Because when you do that, you create sort of the sort of situation where someone is going to pick up arms and attempt to defend their own and attempt to defend the community they have ties to. Which, we obviously, that's not something to be praised. We don't want vigilante justice, but we should also recognize that that's the sort of thing that happens when the police completely lose control.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, fundamentally, you can question his judgment, but it really does come down to the fact that this situation should not have been allowed to
No,
develop
and
in
that's
the
the
first
thing.
place.
If people feel they need to take the law into their own hands to offer protection, they feel that the police are not doing their job, then these things can happen indeed. Do you think there may be any link, I mean, from what we can see so far, between this and what happened in Wisconsin?
I wouldn't want to speculate for themselves.
Okay. All right. Sam Ashworth-Hayes, thank you very much.